Good evening. We'll call the Utility Commission meeting to order. This meeting was properly noticed, and I am looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda or a discussion.
I move we approve, excuse me, I move we approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Tonight, we have President and CEO of WPPI, Mike Peters, here to talk with us about our partnership with WPPI. Mike has worked with and for locally owned, not-for-profit electric utilities for the past 3 decades. He joined WPPI in January of 2011 as president and CEO, and is responsible for the organization's leadership, strategic direction, and day-to-day operations. I'm going to let Mike take it from here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about WPPI and our partnership. I know some of you are familiar with us, and I know Tom Paik and Marty Dreschmeyer, our CFO, were here earlier and spoke to some of you, but feel free to ask questions. What I did like, Chairman, was a comment about our partnership, because that's really what this is. We are joined at the hip. We are partners as utilities, and everything that WPPI does is to support our partners, to allow you to be the strongest municipal utility that you can be, regardless of size. We've got some relatively small municipal utility members and larger ones, but we have found that regardless of size, they all rely on us for quite a bit of thing. We see ourselves as in the back. We are not out front. You are the utility, and everything we do is to support your efforts locally. So I'll walk through the PowerPoint slides just to say something to use, but if you have questions, please speak up. So we really, I don't have to talk to you about the Public Power Advantage. You guys were formed in 1898, so you understand the value of being a municipal utility. I've worked in the utility industry since 1985. I worked with electric cooperative utilities. I've worked for the municipal utilities since coming to WPPI, and I'm very familiar with investor-owned utilities. I can tell you that municipal utilities are, without very few exceptions, have lower rates, have better service, are more responsive to their customers, because you all are customers, and when you go to the grocery store or you go to a basketball game at the high school or a Friday night football game, people know. They'll talk to you. You'll talk to Michelle. It's like they do not hesitate to talk to you about the services they're getting from their utility. So that makes you very responsive to them as customers, which really sets you apart from especially investor-owned utilities. Nobody probably knows who the chairman of the board is or the manager is for Wisconsin Electric or WPS or even MG&E, but I can tell you they know who your people are. They probably even know their lineman that comes around every once in a while on a first-name basis. So that really makes you an invaluable part of the city of Columbus. And it's something that all of our members share, and it's really something that sets us apart from any other utility. So WPPI, you guys were around since I said 1898. We've been around for a little bit more than 40 years, so we're relatively new compared to that. How we came into being was municipal utilities, prior to organizations like us being formed, only had one option really for power supply, and that was whatever the investor-owned utility that surrounded them, they would buy wholesale from that investor-owned utility. Some municipals were large enough to own some of their own generation assets, and we still have some of those around today. Kaukauna has some hydro. Black River Falls has a hydro facility. We even have some municipals that have small diesel generators. That used to be their power supply. In the mid to late 70s, prices were really starting to go up. Municipal utilities, when you'd go to the MUW meeting or something, started comparing bills and found out you weren't getting the charge the same thing. Alliant was charging one member one rate and another utility a different rate. You had really no control. And so really across the country during that time frame, 1970 to 1980, municipal utilities started forming bigger organizations to give them economies of scale. So they were going to be, when they came together, they would be large enough to own assets on their own. They would be large enough to enter into some very large wholesale power supply contracts. And so they came up with this joint action agency approach where you band together, you form an organization. We are a municipal entity just like you. We had to have legislation passed in Wisconsin that actually makes us a subdivision of the state of Wisconsin, but we're kind of a unique animal in that we truly operate independently. All the open meetings, open records, ethics rules, and everything else apply to us, but we're governed by our member board of directors. And so you have a representative on our board and an alternate that sits on our board, and we have a lot of advisory groups that we work with. So we're responsive to the members that own us and control us through that board of directors. We started out with 23 members. Today we have 51 members in 3 states. We have our 41 Wisconsin members. We have 7 members in the UP of Michigan, and then we have 3 members in the state of Iowa. Just for comparative purposes, so Columbus is a 16 megawatt utility. WPPI is about 1,000 megawatt utility. We have collectively across our membership over 200,000 customers that are served, which when you put it all together, we're a pretty large organization from when you put all of the members in WPPI together. And that gives us what I said, economies of scale. We're larger than MG&E from a electric utility standpoint. And so we can own sizable assets. We can enter into large wholesale power supply contracts. Last September, we commissioned the Point Beach Solar Energy Center. It's a 100 megawatt solar farm. And so those are the size of assets that we can own collectively. Columbus gets the benefit of that ownership without having to, own it directly. A 16 megawatt utility would have very limited options for resources. But through WPPI, you have the same access to power supply as an MG&E or Wisconsin Electric. So our total budget, about $450 million, and that is set by our board of directors. We go through a budgeting process. We're actually starting now to do our budgets. We take them to our executive committee. We have a 51-member board. They elect 11 members to be on the executive committee. The board meets 3 times, 4 times a year possibly. The big ticket items like our budget, our wholesale rate, if we're going to issue debt, if we're going to borrow money, the board has to approve that. The board has to approve membership type issues, like if we're going to do a change in our wholesale contract or we're going to add a new member, the board would have to approve that. Everything else has been delegated to the executive committee. The executive committee meets every month, sometimes more, and they really get into the nitty gritty and the detail stuff that we get into as a utility, as a larger utility. Our executive committee meets next week. We sent them the packet today. It's about 300 pages. There's a lot of contract information in there. We're looking at some resources. So they're the ones that are expected to really dig in and be responsible to report to the board what we're doing and make recommendations. So wholesale power costs, that's really, our members, that is really a top of mind. I can tell you, this has been a challenging year, almost 2 years going back to the middle of 2021. Up until the middle of 21, our rates were pretty solid. They had been declining significantly over the last 7-8 years. But last year we saw something that we did not anticipate, and that was natural gas prices just started to go through the roof. And when we look at our natural gas prices from June, they just kept going up significantly. And by the end of the year, wholesale electricity prices, which are driven a lot by wholesale natural gas prices, were double what we anticipated they were going to be, double. And so we've set our budgets for 2022, and I wish we had a better crystal ball, like everybody else wishes they had too. But we anticipated natural gas prices would stay high for the first quarter. But April, typically you'll start to see gas prices come back down. We're getting out of winter. They're not putting gas in the ground for storage for future use next year. And we'll see gas prices come down. So we set our budgets and we said, okay, gas will stay high for the first quarter, but it'll start to come down and it'll it'll look more normal. Didn't. It stayed high. It's as high now as it was last year, and it has not come down, which has made our wholesale electricity prices about 10% above what we had budgeted. Inflation has been a part of that. There's been an issue with more baseload generation coming out of the market, so you have more coal plants that have been coming offline and relying more on natural gas generation, which increases the demand, which drives up the price. And so there's been a number of factors that have resulted in higher gas prices. The wholesale power cost is double what we anticipated in our budget, so we're paying twice as much for wholesale electricity. Fortunately, although our rates are 10% higher than what we budgeted, they're at least not double from what we budgeted. So market energy prices are double, our rates are up about 10%. And that's because we do have assets, we have a lot of generation assets, we don't buy everything unhedged or from the open market without having a resource to back ourselves up. So that does give us some protection. But we are still exposed to those higher costs, especially in the months of June, July, August, and September. So we'll see how the rest of the year continues, but we're working on our budgets for next year. We just had a lot of discussion over the last couple days about what we're anticipating summer prices to be next year, and we're going to budget that they're going to be the same price that they were this year. I wish I had a better crystal ball. Of course, we'd all be rich and off on some beach in Hawaii or something. So we'll see how it goes. But when you look at the one graph, page 7, or slide 7, when you look at all of our members' rates combined, WPPI municipal members are still extremely competitive when you compare our members to every other utility in the state. That first bar graph, that blue in the middle is with the turbine, our logo there. That's showing our collective membership's average rates compared to all other utilities in the state of Wisconsin. And so when you look at it that way, there's very few utilities that have lower rates total than what our members do. And when you look at it from a residential perspective, even fewer municipal utilities have lower rates, or any utility has lower rates. No investor-owned utility has lower rates. There are some municipal utilities, due to some special circumstances that they have, unique to them, have slightly lower rates. But municipal utilities, members of WPPI, are extremely competitive across the board. I think you're going to talk a little bit about your rates in the presentation that you all have. Columbus has done a really good job. You compare very favorably to most every other municipal utility in the state. So you've done a really good job, looking at that as a very important component. Customers concern themselves. There are two things that drive customers' concerns when we look at customer surveys: rates, but more importantly, that is reliability. Customers would pay more for more reliability. But rates and reliability are the two most important things, and you guys do a great job with both of those. So, and that really speaks well to the system that you've built up over time and continue to operate. Where does WPPI come into play? Well, we do three things. Power supply is what we were created for. But the same economies of scale can apply to services, and our founding members saw that pretty quickly, and we started developing services that our members asked us for. All the services that we provide came from members working with us to develop those services. We're not an organization that tries to dream up a new product or a new service and try to pitch our members into buying it. It's the other way around. Our members come to us and say, we've got a problem we think you can help us solve, and so we collectively work together. Most of the time we put together an advisory group, or the executive committee will look at it, and they'll work with staff. They'll ask us, how can this work? How can you provide support? And so we'll create a service. It gets approved through the same process that our budget does. We'll have a member advisory group that'll say, yeah, we think that's a service that you should be doing. The executive committee will say yes, and then the board ultimately will say yes through the budgeting process. So we got into services very quickly after we were actually stood up to do power supply. And today we have well over, we have an entire menu of services, and we do have some that drop off. There are some that it gets to a point where it doesn't make sense for us to do that anymore, and the members will take some of that stuff over. And that's a constant discussion that our advisory groups will have. Is the services that WPPI provides, is that appropriate? Are they appropriately priced? is our services that we should drop. And so those are constant discussions that we have. And then advocacy. I talked about the fact that that legislation had to be passed for us to be created. You are all in a very highly regulated industry, whether it's through the PSCW, all the environmental regulations that you deal with, and from a legal standpoint at the legislature. And so we're a very regulated industry, and so we have to interface with state legislatures, the PSCW, other regulatory agencies, DOA, et cetera. And so part of what we do is advocacy work. We especially like the connection that we have with our local communities. You really are the ones that give us the clout to go speak on your behalf. I can tell you the best group of lobbyists I've ever seen is a room full of mayors. Because when a room full of mayors show up, whether it's in Washington, D.C. or in Madison, people listen to you. Your congressman wants to hear your perspective because they know you represent a very important part of their constituency, and you have the ear. And so every time we go to Washington, D.C. to meet with our elected delegation, they love getting pictures with mayors because they didn't show up in the paper back home. But it's an effective group because then when we go back, when Joseph Owen, our government relations manager, or Tom Hanrahan, our general counsel, or even me, when we go back, I'm not just speaking for me. I'm speaking for Columbus. I'm speaking for Lodi and Stoughton and all the other members that we represent. But they know that we're responsible to you, and so we get to speak with that authority that you give to us. So it's really something that I think is unique, especially for municipal utilities. On slide 9, an overview of our power supply resources. We really try to have a very diversified portfolio base. Think about it as your retirement investments. Do you put all of your retirement in one stock? You have a more diversified investment. And so we look at power supply sort of in the same vein. We don't have 100% of our capacity and energy coming from one resource. It's spread out. It's not only spread out from a fuel mix standpoint, which the slide at the bottom part of the page, that slide number 10, shows how our fuel mix has changed over time, but it's also spread out from a geography standpoint. It's spread out from a resource standpoint, renewables, fossil fuel. We have 3 different coal generators, but no one individual resource is more than 10% of our total capacity needs. And so if we did have a resource that went offline, yes, we would probably pay a slightly higher cost, but again, not 100%. If all of your power supply came from one resource and that went offline for some reason, now you're 100% exposed to the market prices. And so when I said market energy doubled, if we had 100% of our power supply in one resource and it went offline, we would pay 100% more than what we had anticipated. So we manage our resource mix. It's going to continue to change. You'll see that fuel mix change over the next probably 8 to 10 years. In 2035, you'll start to see a pretty substantial change. All 3 of the coal units that we have an interest in are going to convert to natural gas. And so you'll see that fuel mix, even from a coal standpoint, drop down extremely low, and natural gas will become a larger piece, as will renewables. I'm got a few more minutes and I'll be wrapping up. So from a planning standpoint, WPPI develops a short and long-term business plan. Right now we're in the first year of a 5-year business plan. We developed that plan based on member input. And so we had a number of meetings where we invited our members. Last year, we sat down with them, asked them what challenges they had locally, what role did they see for WPPI to provide assistance. And so from that, we developed the business plan. We take it to the executive committee. We take it to the board. Again, it's to that being accountable to the membership is how we make decisions. So that's no different. I talked a lot about the services that we provide. Probably the one that our members look to the most right now, there's a couple of them. One is their energy service managers that are embedded within our member communities that provide professional support. Some of our smaller members really rely a lot on that energy service manager to be a key account manager, deal with large industrial commercial customers, high bill complaints. It gives you a professional staff person that has the expertise to handle those types of issues. Then the other area where we get a lot of, provide a lot of support is in the billing. Our AMI meter data management and customer information, our billing system. It gives you a tool that is as sophisticated a billing system as any investor-owned utility would have for your customers. So they have online access to data. Your customer service reps that are taking a call from a customer can look at that data and know that it's accurate and the bills are being done accurately. So that's a big piece of some of the support that, I think those are probably the two that our members respond in our customer surveys are most important to them. So we obviously have a couple opportunities for engagement coming up. Our annual meeting is in September. Hope to see some of you at the annual meeting. It's a good opportunity to learn a lot more about the industry and about WPPI as well. And then we have a fall orientation for elected and appointed and commissioners and staff that aren't as familiar with WPPI. Get an opportunity to come to our facility, see what you've invested in, see what you own through WPPI, and learn a little bit more about the organization. Happy to answer any questions you have. I know dropped a lot on you, but I do appreciate the time.
Thank you for coming.
You bet.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
I'm Mary Arnold, I'm the mayor.
Yep.
The orientation to WPPI in October, do you have a date for that?
Tuesday the 25th.
What she said.
Tuesday, the 25th,
Yep.
and is it like an all-day kind of thing?
No, it's, well, you have the,
It's 8 to 1.
yeah, we typically, it typically starts, people start showing up at 8, the program starts at 8:30, we go through lunch, have lunch.
Okay.
Offer a tour of the operations center, so.
And this would be a good opportunity for maybe some of our newer commissioners?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's typically the target audience is
Okay.
newer commissioners, newer elected city council members, new staff that are new to the utility, don't know who, exactly we are and what
Okay.
the partnership is. So that's a great opportunity to get a little bit more in depth.
So if we want to sign up, would we contact Michelle? Okay.
I have an invitation for the new commissioners in their packet.
There you go.
Oh,
I
okay.
can make sure everyone gets one,
Okay.
but I can show you that.
And kind of along those lines, the annual meeting in September, is that another opportunity? for-
Absolutely. That's a really good opportunity.
That invitation is in your packet.
I think, yeah, I did see that one.
This
So,
is what this one looks like.
Yeah.
okay, thanks. Also, very honored to have you here tonight.
Oh,
Thank you for
I'm
taking the time.
honored to be invited, and anytime you have any questions, happy to come back. I think Columbus was one of the first municipals that I got to visit when I first joined WPPI, so it's changed a little bit. You've had your long-term manager at that time is now retired, but yeah. But you've had a long history with us. You've had, an individual who served as our chairman before, so you've got a lot of connections. So I did appreciate when you talked about us as a partner, because we really are. We're partners. So,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
you bet.
We
I
really
appreciate the opportunity. Again, anything you need from us, you've got a perfect go-to person, and we're happy to respond or provide any information that you need. So, yep, thank you. I do have another commitment tonight, so I'm going to bug out. So, but thank you.
Drive careful.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, and I am either looking for a motion to approve or discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
Yes. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we are going to begin our onboarding, and for some of you who've served before, this may feel like a review, but it's geared towards our new commissioners, and so they understand roles and history of our utility, and it's going to be a group effort. I will be talking through some, Michelle, Katie, and Kyle all will. So why don't we get started with Michelle doing the water and light history?
So I'm going to review the history of the water and light. This will be the longest slide that I talk, but it's some great information. So as Mike had mentioned, that the electric was formed in 1898. The water department was formed 3 years earlier in 1896, and the two were closely related. Both departments were managed and supervised by the same commission, housed in the same building, and both obtained their power from the same boiler for many years. The Columbus Water Department was brought into being October 24th, 1895, with the passing of Ordinance Number 67. The ordinance authorized and provided that the city of Columbus shall borrow the sum of $25,000 for the purpose of constructing, operating, and managing a system of waterworks in and by the city of Columbus. The water department consisted of an overhead storage tank, a reservoir, a steam-driven pump, and approximately 20,000 feet of water main. For the electric department, the Common Council passed ordinance number 87 on April 4th, 1899. The ordinance provided for the issuance of electric light bonds not to exceed $10,000 for the purpose of constructing an electric light system in the city of Columbus. The new electric plant consisted of 2 direct current generators and were powered by 2 steam engines. The engines received their steam from the boilers installed for pumping water for the water plant. That same year, council passed ordinance number 91, regulating the electric light system. The rates were set at 10 cents per 1,000 watt hours. That's 1 kilowatt. And a meter charge of 25 cents per month. In 1901, ordinance number 107 was passed by the Common Council, creating a board of water and light commissioners. The duties of the commission was to manage, control, supervise the waterworks and light plant. The commission was made up of 5 members consisting of 3 citizens, the mayor, and 1 alderman. To bring this all up to date, today the water department is composed of 3 operating wells, 2 treatment plants, 2 ground reservoirs, 1 elevated tank, and 181,000 feet of main. For the electric department, it is composed of 4 transformer substations and over 60 miles of distribution lines.
So I'm going to give a little history about the wastewater department. The original plant was built in 1930, upgraded in 1954. Current plant built in 1983. They created a wet weather blending. This is for rain, high rainstorms, because we get some I&I infiltration into the system. They needed something so that we wouldn't wash out the plant every time it rained. So that was 2011. Began receiving flow from Fall River, and that was 2012. RAS pump replacement, 2013. Aeration system upgrade, new blowers and diffusers, 2014. Final clarifier rehab, 2015 and 2016. Solids building HVAC, 2019. Sludge tank blower replacement, 2019. Influent screen replacement and building addition 2020, and influent pump replacement in 2021. And then I'll move on to the wastewater facility operation and collection system operations. We have a staff of 3 people. I am operator A, the lead operator, and we have 2 operator Bs and 1 seasonal employee. The type of process is an activated sludge with extended air, and we have tertiary treatment. It is a 7.5 MGD plant with an average flow, daily flow right now of 0.804 MGD. Collection systems equate to 35 plus miles of pipe in addition to laterals, homes, schools and businesses, 700 manholes, 10 lift stations, plus 1 in Elba that we maintain. Removal efficiency for BOD, TSS and phosphorus is 98%. Removal efficiency for ammonia is 99%. Our biosolids production, 1,800 cubic yards, which is land spread to DNR-approved farmland. And yay, we're a NACWA Gold Award winner this year. It hasn't been officially announced till now, but we will be receiving our Gold Award for no violations in the year 2021. So the wastewater department responsibilities, first and foremost, maintain permit compliance. We have a certified lab that we do daily sampling, daily analysis, and QA/QC. Operation and maintenance is process operation, facility grounds and maintenance, process and equipment maintenance, reports billing, wastewater fleet maintenance, biosolids program, and we also maintain the collection system, which is cleaning. We have televising equipment. We maintain 10 lift stations plus Alva, and we also do diggers hotline locates. And again, this is done with 3 personnel.
Before we move on to the sales and revenue, does anyone have questions for Michelle or Katie?
Katie, just one quick question. Can you tell me what, you used some initials and I wasn't sure what you, MGD?
MGD is million gallons per day.
Okay, thank you.
So we almost reach, on rainy days, we reach 1 million gallons per day.
Okay.
On dry, no rain, 0.8, 0.7 MGD per day.
Okay.
So we are, again, our plant is set for 7.5. So we could take 7.5, but that's a stretch. So we don't want that kind of rain, ever. Does anybody else have any other questions for me?
I have one question for Michelle. How many operators do you have for the drinking water?
We have 2.
They're both fully certified for...
No, we have 1 lead operator who's fully certified, and we have 1 operator just going on a year that is in the middle of getting certified. You're welcome. Okay, if we move on to the sales and revenue information on slide 8. Do I have to, is that on?
Yep, it's on.
Okay. So every year an electric department sales comparison report is created. This information is part of what's included in the annual report that's put together for City Council. The report also is posted on our website each year for our customers to see. It's under the tab About Us. Included in these graphs are the last 6 years of data for the annual kilowatt hours purchased and the yearly revenues. And as you can see, the information shows that even though in some years where more kilowatts were purchased, it doesn't mean the revenues follow that same pattern. And Mike can contribute to that. The biggest contributing factor is power costs. And the other is weather. Seasonal wholesale rate components May through September. We have a super peak on rate. So that affects our revenues. If you go to slide 9, again, every year a water department sales comparison report is also created. The annual sales data over the last 6 years has been pretty consistent. If you compare this to the revenues, you can see that in 2019, the revenues started to increase. This is due to a rate adjustment that went into effect July 2019. This information is also part of that annual report for City Council and is part of the report that's found on our website. If we move to slide 10, the review of rates. The latest rate adjustment for the electric department was in November 2012 and July 2019 for the water department and April 2018 for the wastewater department. Though historically the average for rate adjustments has been 6 years, the wastewater department recently completed a rate study and there are recommendations to increase charges. This will be a topic the commission will be discussing in the future. On slide 11, the electric rate comparison is done every year to see how our rates stand up to other municipal electric rates. There are 81 municipals in Wisconsin. The comparison components are a usage month and an average kilowatt usage. It then takes the municipal's monthly meter charge, kilowatt charge, and the PCAC charge and compares. Listed on the right are a few examples of other utility charges. For the month of February, we ranked 17th highest out of 81. But the good news is that after running the comparison again for the month of June and the 600 kilowatt usage, we came in at a ranking of 35 out of 81. Slide 12, the water rate comparison is also done every year to see how we stack up to other water systems. Some example comparisons are listed on the right. According to the DNR's Wisconsin Public Water System 2021 Annual Drinking Water Report, Wisconsin has 1,038 community water systems that serve 69% of the state's population. The remainder of the state's residents receive their water from private domestic wells. The Public Service Commission oversees more than 575 drinking water utilities operating in Wisconsin, including municipal and investor-owned utilities. The PSC's authority extends to any water system that provides water to public for domestic, commercial, or industrial purposes. However, regional water authorities, cooperative, water trusts, and private wells are generally not subject to PSC regulation. The water rate comparison from the PSC ranked the water department 94th highest out of 630.
Just ask a quick question. I'm looking at the chart here.
Absolutely.
And like Eustisford is like $50 more than Columbus. What might contribute to that?
Because they have a smaller base of customers.
Okay.
They also have a softening plant,
Okay.
like we do, which adds more overhead costs and then less to recover.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the next slide shows our sewer rates. I think that, Kyle, are you going to address the adjusted sewer rates that
Do you want me? I have a little bit of.
we're going to handle that? I don't know if that's coming up, but
You mean for the sewer rate study?
sewer rate study, I'm sorry.
We're not really going to talk about it tonight, except
Okay.
to say we'll talk about it probably at the next
Okay,
meeting.
so there's a sewer rate study, and so you'll see the fixed charges by meter size, and you know, each one has their own rates. I also added here the septic hauler rates are $10 per load and $7.17 per 1,000 gallons, which are the lowest in the area. I want to add about the septic haulers. We do accept some septic haulers. We decide on what they're hauling, if we can accept it or not. Beaver Dam does not accept septic haulers. Sun Prairie does not accept septic haulers. We do because it is a revenue, and, you know, revenue is good, but it does create a lot of problems in the sewer treatment plant. So we are the lowest charging municipality for septic haulers in the area. So this will hopefully be addressed soon too, along with our sewer rates. The next slide is Fall River flow charges. We charge Fall River $2 per 1,000 gallons. We also charge them for high-strength waste. BOD waste, we charge 0.864 for high strength, 0.812, and 0.17 for suspended solids. Alba charges are $2.27 per 1,000 gallons. Also, Ottery Brothers, we charge them for their high-strength wastes, and flow charges are $7.17 per 1,000 gallons, and BOD .864, .812 for ammonia, $3.97 for phosphorus, and high-strength waste for suspended solids, .717. I know that's a lot of numbers, and so if anybody has any questions.
One thing I would just like to add to Katie's, currently the sewer is billed with the electric and the water, and sewer services, people always say, but I don't have a sewer meter. Sewer services are billed for all the properties that are connected to the sanitary system and served by the water utility. Each property is billed monthly, a charge based on use volume, and a service charge, also referred as the fixed rate charge, and is based off the size of the water meter serving the property. So, just so you know how that's generated.
You know, I know nothing about water meters, and I noticed there were quite a few different sizes. So like,
Yes.
what would a normal house, or what does it depend on?
Those are usually 5/8 or 3/4.
Okay,
And then as you get up, like a commercial building might be 1 inch, your industrial are where you get your 3, the pool, that, that has
okay.
a 4 inch.
okay.
So, you know, you can kind of, it's by the use of the water and the property.
Okay.
You're welcome. Future utility projects. So I'll just give a brief on each of the points on here. For the electric utility project, Parkview conversion has been an ongoing project for many years. The project was started in 2017 and is expected to be completed in 2025. This conversion is changing from 4 kV to 12 kV. We're expecting it to be about, when it's all said and done, about $2 million. The Farnham Street lighting project upgrade is expected to be completed in 2020. It actually, they were doing the final walkthrough today on the project. Future gateway for industrial park, that all depends on future development in that area. We, hope that development comes in and we get that, reliable loop, which goes into, the next one as well, Park Avenue, Western Avenue, Avalon Road, reliability loop. Like Mike had said, besides cost, reliability is the next important to the customers. This project is estimated to begin in 2026. A loop system, as the name implies, loops through the service area and returns to the original point. The loop is usually tied into an alternate power source. By placing switches in strategic locations, the utility can supply power to the customer from either direction. The decommissioning of substation 1, that is where all of our 4 kV comes from. Decommissioning the substation is anticipated to be commissioned in 2025, but that will depend on a few factors: if the overall Parkview conversion being completed, and if the works are in place for a new substation, if it's in the process of design or development. Yes.
Thanks, Michelle. So real quick about reliability loops, is that like a redundancy feature so that you can still bypass an area that might be out to get not all residences or consumers affected?
Correct.
So that's how it's affecting our reliability?
Yeah, but if you have a one-way and it gets affected.
We can ship it another way.
Right, and so you have less response, or less outage for multiple.
Risk,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions?
I had a question about the Farnham Street lighting upgrade.
Yes.
Since that was a state highway project, was there some funding provided by the state, or did the utility have to pay for the upgrade completely?
I'm still waiting for that breakdown.
I don't have that part.
It was estimated a portion, like, do you remember the James Street project? Yep, there was a portion that was paid for by the state, but I have not seen that breakdown. I don't know that yet.
Okay,
But I am anticipating something.
okay. We used to have wooden poles out there. Are we going with steel poles to match the ones that we have here?
Yes, we are.
All right, that's great, thank you.
Yep. And they are up if you want to take a drive down. Huh?
Did they go up today?
No. When did they go up? Last week?
I don't know, I saw the base of one maybe last night. I don't know if they're all up or just
I
some
don't
maybe.
think they're all up,
No.
it's out there today.
No.
I'll check it out.
They might not be lit up. But I know that the control is, they're all wired up. Okay, let's see, if we move to the next slide, the water utility projects. And again, the Farnham Street water main improvements are expected to be completed, which, you know, they're in the process of being completed now. The next water main project improvement that's being discussed is Folsom Street in 2023. The painting of the water tower is projected to be done in 2027. And the conversion of upgrading and replacing of the water plant is always being evaluated and discussed from year to year. Updates have been done over the years, like tuck pointing to the building, roof repairs, new doors, and paint inside, to mention a few. But the age of the overall plant is showing. Well number 1 was drilled in 1909. Well number 2 was drilled in 1943. The building itself was built in the 1940s. In 1963, the commission was faced with the problem of providing a new, larger water softening facility for the city, and the building was put back into use to provide housing for the new water softening equipment, and is still operational today. Might be a historical building.
Wastewater utility upgrades. The aeration diffuser replacement project that was set for 2022 is being pushed back to 2023 because of the delivery of the diffusers themselves will not happen until January. The proposed projects for 2023 will be the clarifier deck repair. The clarifier deck is the concrete between the two clarifiers is breaking all apart. It's in bad disrepair. It looks like the project's budgeted amount should be right around $100,000. Filter room blasting and coating. The filter room is the final physical treatment process in the plant. It's where the water from the clarifiers go to the filters, goes through the sand filters, and then goes for chlorination and out to the river. This room is, the piping needs to be sandblasted and inspected for possible issues as far as rust and situations. We don't even know how bad underneath the water some of these pipes are. So this project is being budgeted for $91,000 for 2023. The next project that we would hope to slate for 2024 will be the clarifier and sludge holding building, fiberglass recoating. It's chipping badly, and the fiberglass is exposed at this point. Biosolids upgrade project. This is currently the biosolids study is in progress. We're looking at several different processes to further dry our biosolids. Currently, our biosolids are at about a 14% solid, and they go on to the DNR approved land. Our storage building is limited, so we have to make sure that we can get on DNR approved land twice a year. We don't have enough storage. So by drying it further, some of these processes can get us to 90% solids. So that decreases the volume dramatically. and it's also a little bit more inviting for farmers to accept this on their land. The biosolids study will be complete in a couple weeks. PLC upgrade, our PLCs are outdated and obsolete. I can get back to you.
It has something to do with the logic controller.
It is,
I forget
it's
first
the
word.
logic, I don't know exactly what the acronym stands for, but it's how the equipment talks to the SCADA computers and how the computers make the plant run. So it all has to go through, it's a brain box of the plant. So it's obsolete. We cannot get these cards any longer. Actually, Rupert Milky, the ones that they're taking out of other utilities, they're saving for us. So that's $150,000. So that's a large project.
Thanks, Katie. Real
Sure.
quick, the biosolids project.
Sure.
You said right now you have to empty twice a year, right?
Correct.
Is that going to decrease the number of times you have to?
Absolutely. I mean, we could potentially go 2 to 3 years without actually emptying it.
Okay.
But it would make it so that the farmers would actually want it. Right
When you
now,
do
they're
have to
like
unload it.
a little leery, just because, you know, I mean, we have PFAS and a lot of other things that alert farmers. They're just not sure that they want to deal with the wet sludge and it's odorous, you know, a lot of reasons why they really don't want it. The dry sludge is basically fertilizer. So, I mean, it's a little bit more inviting for somebody to accept
Easier
on
to
their land.
offload.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
And finally, we are right now in the design for the Meister and Waterloo lift station rehab. So currently it's being designed this year, and it should be a project for 2023. Any questions? Sarah? Okay.
Go ahead.
Just a question on the aeration diffusers, the council approval.
Sure.
On the last time you were up, you had mentioned that we had upgraded those in 2014. So is that the useful life of a diffuser is 6 years?
Well, no. So they didn't last their life that they were supposed to, and they're warranted. So the company has stood by their warranty. They're giving us the diffusers for free, and they're only charging us for the installation. So it actually was a good deal, and council approved it, I believe, was last month.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, again, the diffusers are not. They were supposed to arrive in September, and now it looks like January. But we can't replace them in January, so.
Sure. Well, whenever there's free things involved, you should let us know. That's always great.
Whenever
when a
there's free
warranty
things.
actually pays off.
Correct.
Any other questions for Katie or Michelle? Thank you, Katie and Michelle. You guys did a great job. The next portion of our onboarding is going to focus on the commission, its role, and ethics. There is a portion in your packet that has part of Ordinance 102 in it that discusses what the commission can and can't do. Ordinance 102 was passed just a couple months ago, hence we are here with a new commission with a new reorganized utility that includes water, sewer, electric, stormwater, and communications. The commission has the general powers to help manage the day-to-day of the utility itself. The superintendent is the overall power of managing the utility. The superintendent reports to the city administrator. The commission has the power to approve employment or termination of any of the employees other than the superintendent. That needs to be done in conjunction with the city council and the city administrator. Under the new ordinance, the commission is responsible for rates, rules, and regulations. And we are also in control of asset management, so ensuring that assets are replaced, repaired, and in good standing. That is it in a nutshell. Next month, we are going to be putting together our bylaws. As we begin to put together the bylaws, we will go through the ordinance in more detail. I know I gave you kind of just a high level there. If you have time before the next meeting, I encourage you to read through Ordinance 102 in full so that we can begin the bylaw work. And then next, we're going to walk through Code of Conduct.
All right. Thank you. I'm kind of finishing this off. I have the longest kind of block, I think. So hopefully you hang with me here. Most of you have seen this already, but it is one of the things that was established earlier this year by the city council, and it applies to, oops, sorry, I'm multitasking. It applies to the city council itself, but also to the boards, committees, commissions of the city. And one of the things the ordinance requires is that we include this in our training and orientations for all the boards, committees, and commissions. So that's one of the reasons we're kind of going over this again. The core thing that this was intended to do was instill some public confidence and trust in the governance, make sure that there's integrity in the process, make sure that the city officials are conducting the city business openly, ethically, and that involves how they interact with the members of the body itself, staff, as well as the public. Oops. Sure. Thank you. All right, so one of the areas that they focus on is open communication. And they wanted to make sure that everyone in the committees, boards, commissions was committed to the communication that promotes openness, trust, and understanding. And that's the positive communication habits, open communication, constructive feedback, and relating right to the next bullet point about honest, direct communication, and replacing rumors with facts. I know as we've gone through a variety of things, you hear all sorts of different things at different times, and then you sort of wonder what is the truth. So one of the things that the council really identified was when you are trafficking in these rumors, it's important to get back to the actual facts of whatever situation we're looking at, because it's fair to the public and to the staff and to the members of the body. When we deal with concerns and criticism or dissatisfaction, we make sure that we're handling that appropriately. So if there's concerns with staff, that should be directed to the mayor, the council president, city administrator for follow-up, not directed right from a committee or commission member directly to a staff member. And they're not going to, or you should not be airing your dissatisfaction with the staff or members of the committee on social media or during these meetings. Those are things that, with that open, direct communication, you should be talking with the people if you have concerns about them. If it's with staff, you should be using the processes and the structure we have in place to look into those situations or follow up on them. Also, equal access to information, making sure that, we're sharing information. This is more of an obligation with staff, but also as commission members, sort of an assurance to you is that we're going to be sharing information with everybody so that not half the commission gets the information and the other half doesn't get the information. So we want to make sure that everyone has the same kind of factual basis to make their decisions on. And also, as we talked just a little bit about the concerns and criticism, things that happen in closed session, I know the Utility Commission doesn't necessarily go into closed session maybe as often as the City Council does, based on kind of the issues that we deal with. But anything that happens in closed session, it's important to remain confidential to make sure that we're protecting staff and their reputations and handling those issues with discretion if they need to be handled. Yep. So the quality interaction, we're basically all on the same team here. We're all kind of working towards the same goal. We're looking at the same issues, and conflict is sort of inevitable when we're looking at these issues. We're not all going to agree all the time, but it's really in how you manage the conflict is where we can find the progress and actually improve our relationships as we work through these issues in a way that's, again, open and direct and supportive. And the part of that is being receptive to the divergent ideas and viewpoints so that you come in with one set of ideas or decisions that you think make a lot of sense, but during the conversation and the deliberation, it's important to make sure you keep an open mind and listen to the other viewpoints. And, you know, I think you can always work to influence those other opinions in supportive ways, not attacking. But you are also, you know, accountable for your own actions as part of the team. And so, you know, part of that, I think, is trying to get your viewpoint across in a productive manner, and hopefully people will see the point that you're trying to make and maybe side with you as well. A part of the conflict can make, or when you have conflict, one of the things that can make it worse is when you have people going behind each other's backs and talking negatively about them, whether it's on social media or just even in the community. And again, we're trying to remain committed to that open, direct communication. So if you have problems with somebody, you should be in private working with those directly to address them. And that's where we talk about the concerns between the members. You want to handle them directly, but privately. Not saying that's going to work and resolve every situation. And if it doesn't, that's when you kind of rely on those others that are around you. The mayor, council president, the chair of the commission, they can help try to work through some of those. Staff really don't have a role in this because the staff really are working for the committees, commissions, city council. So we're not a good referee in the middle, but we do have the processes with the other leadership in the city and on the commissions to help with that. Social media, it's sort of ever present, I think, and people use social media in a variety of ways here. The big thing I think that is important for city officials, which all of you are city officials, is that as you use social media, you may be creating public records. If you're communicating as an official and saying, well, you know, I'm on the utility commission or I'm a city council member and this is what I think or I want to ask you about this, and that's actually creating a public record because that's official communication about something that the public has an interest in. So that brings other issues about, are you maintaining those records and are you able to produce them if someone comes and says, I want to see your instant messages about XYZ issue on Facebook. And as a public official, you have to maintain those. You have to produce them on demand. So just be very careful about what you're doing as far as social media and how you're kind of commingling your official work and the social media. Because the personal and professional lines can be very easy to blur. And even if you don't say, I'm on the utility commission, everyone knows you're on the utility commission, and when you're talking about issues that might be before the commission, it's going to be seen as an official communication as a government official. They do talk on pages 3 and 4 of the policy about using disclaimers. So I would take some time to read that if you are commenting on things to help draw that line between what's personal and what's maybe your official role. But also the language that you're using matters. As a city official, you want to be obviously careful to not threaten anyone, use profanity, obscenity, share confidential information, slander others. Everything you do as a city official can bring liability to the city. Even offhand comments or observations or jokes can end up being used later on to say that this was the opinion of the city, or the utility commission obviously made that decision because, look, this person already had a predisposition or something like that. So just be very careful, again, about how you communicate and, you know, where that line is between personal and professional communication. Decision-making, that's the primary reason that all of you are sitting here. And it involves a variety of things, but the policy talks about gathering facts and taking time to reflect, allowing time to gather some input, put some thought into the issues, again, considering those multiple solutions, looking at the benefits, drawbacks, even if it's a proposal you don't necessarily like in the beginning, are there ways you can make it better? Are there ways that you can identify some of the shortcomings and eliminate them? Then almost kind of ironically, the next thing is make a timely decision. We just told you in the first thing to take your time, make a decision, but take your time. You're never going to have all the information. So one of the things that we always, try to stress is making a timely decision. Once you have enough information, there's no such thing as all the information, but taking the time and then kind of deciding when you have enough to make an educated decision, making it versus continuing to kick the can down the road. And then we never really make progress. And then once a commission decision has been reached, you need to support the decision in a variety of ways. Staff take the decision of the commission, even if it's a split decision, and we implement it. So the staff need to be communicated that decision, but they also need support from the commission that if you asked us to do something, that it's going to be funded, the policies are going to support it, and that staff aren't going to be individually called out for following what was the decision really of the governing body. And that goes to, I think, communicating the decision, even if you don't agree with it. I think as a body, it helps if you could at least support, because staff are sort of following your lead. And then finally evaluate. We make the decisions, but it's important not to lose sight of going back and figuring out, did we learn more information that we didn't have before? Do we need to tweak it? Is it working as intended? And, trying to, I guess, figure out, is it still the best decision, or can we still make it better? Request for information. All of the committee and commission members and city council members at times have the need for information or curiosities about different things. The basic process we have set up in this policy is that the commission members would direct the request to the superintendent. If it's something that's readily available, easy to provide, the superintendent will provide that or delegate it to other staff to make sure you get what you need. We ask that the city administrator and commission president are just copied on the request, so we kind of know what requests are coming in and what information is kind of interest in the body, because it might be something that should be shared not just with one member, but maybe with everyone, if they're all having, or if there's one question, several others might have it but haven't asked necessarily. And then there are times where we do have to balance those requests versus resources. There's things that are going to be simple to get, and that's not a problem. But there's other things, if you want staff as an individual member, you're asking a staff member to go back 8 years and dig up some minute details. That's going to take a lot of staff time. And the time that we have is sort of precious. We don't really have a lot of excess staff, and we kind of work towards capacity. So if a single request becomes too burdensome, typically the superintendent would come to the administrator, and I would try to make a decision on if I think it's reasonable or not, or if it's something we can accommodate. My decision would be discussed then with the mayor, council president, and we would let you know. If it's something, there's two ways then you can do that. You can always file an open records request and go the longer way and pay for either the data to be searched by an outside firm. Like a lot of times with our emails, we have to have an outside firm search for that anyways. But the other thing would be that if it becomes an agenda item, the entire commission can decide that it is worth dedicating the staff time, and then that's a decision that we would adhere to. But the difficulty is with 7 different members, you could have 7 different projects for the superintendent to be researching at one time, and that's just not realistic to be able to accomplish. So we do have to do that balancing request. Typically, it's we're always able to accommodate it, but it's worth pointing out that everything that is requested does take some staff time to produce. And then policy versus implementation and operations, obviously, the council or the commission, you guys set the policy. And then the staff, we turn it into operationalized actions, we execute it. It's important, though, that the staff that are implementing the policies, that there's a recognition that there is sort of a line between the two. As you set policy and you see alignment out doing work, as an individual member, you don't get to go out and say, no, I don't want you doing that. You need to come down. I want you to do this instead. There is that line there. So if you have questions about anything you see, it would go back to the superintendent and our city administrator, and we can follow up on what you saw or what the question is. Meetings, we're all here basically to do the same thing, and that everyone here is sitting up there to make the city a better place now and in the future. And I think that's important to keep that in mind, as especially you get into issues where you might not agree. So everyone's coming from a place where they're actually you're all coming from a similar place where you want things to be better, and the decisions that you're making or supporting, they're making that true in your own head, even though they might be different decisions than your commission members, just down the seat, one seat over. But they're serving a common goal with these, the policies that we have in the code of conduct. We're trying to have open and orderly meetings. We talk about not having surprises because they're counterproductive. So if you have questions about the agenda, if you have questions about the attachments or the bills, you can reach Michelle almost any time right up to the meeting, and she can probably actually do the research and find out whatever you want. But if we're gonna try to surprise us, either staff or other members at the meeting, it just tends to slow things down and be counterproductive because then we usually have to go back and wait for more information versus the ability to maybe come with the information that you can all consider at once. And then I wrote vote your vote. It's basically, no one needs to agree on every issue, and actually there's a lot of strength in having, kind of vigorous debate about issues that matter. The one thing with that is, I think if one of the things in here is you're encouraged, if you're going to vote differently, to try to explain to people, the members up there, why you're voting the way you're voting. If you feel strongly about it, hopefully you'll maybe get 1 or 2 other people to join your side. And so just voting yes or no on something that is kind of controversial without giving a reason, it sort of misses the point of the commission working together to solve problems. So the policy does encourage you to state your opinions on why you might be voting the way you're voting. Attendance and participation, we want you to come prepared, silence your devices, again, share your thoughts and participate. But attendance is important, so if you can't attend, make sure you notify the chair, notify the superintendent. It only takes a few of you to, have something come up, and pretty soon we can't meet, or everyone will show up and we'll only have 3 members. We can't pay the bills, we can't approve anything. So it is important for us to know if you're going to be here or not be here. And the format and formalities, we have set agendas. You can't add items to the current meeting. So there's an item on the agendas now for future agenda items, and that would be just to identify things that you want to talk about in the future. But you can't talk about them during that portion. You can't say, I want to talk about sewer rates. And then someone says, well, what do you mean sewer rates? And they say, well, the sewer rates seem a little low. I think maybe we should do this. And then now you've created an open meetings violation. And then also the Code of Conduct says that we follow the Roberts Rules of Order in a reasonable interpretation. Roberts Rules of Order, if you followed it exactly, wouldn't comply with Wisconsin open meetings laws, and we would be in all sorts of problems with that. So we do have to sort of find a middle ground where we adhere to the spirit of it, but not always necessarily the exact text as written. Interaction with staff, it's a cooperative effort, what we're doing here. You're obviously up there setting policy, and then the operations that we try to do go hand in hand with the decisions that you're making. And the ratepayers are also giving you guys input that you're turning into information in your decision-making process. So it really does take multiple sources of participation to make this work well. Part of that is the mutual respect and professionalism. Michelle has a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and we have a lot of professional staff in the utility department, in the city, and you should, as you're making your deliberations, it's important to respect the abilities, experience, and training of our staff. The public criticism at meetings should not be happening. If you have criticism of employees, we talked about that happening in a more private setting, addressing it through the leadership. And then it's also, as this commission is a little bit different than the city council, but it's not proper to solicit political support from staff. Say that the mayor said, you know, geez, Katie, you do such a great job, but it'd be nicer if you had a sign in your yard that said Mayor Arnold. Well, obviously, she wouldn't do that, but it's important to make sure that even casual interactions that you might have with city staff, to make sure that you're not asking them to support you politically, even if you're not, you know, in this kind of setting, there could be the impression that you're unduly influencing them. That's a separate issue from city employees and utility employees and what they choose to have in their yard. That's a separate issue, but you should not be approaching them and trying to influence them in that way. And again, separation of roles, no attorney-client relationship. And what that means is essentially the attorneys that we have represent the utility and they represent the city. So individual members can't contact our attorney and say, I've got a beef with something, I think this is wrong, because they're not representing the individual members, they're representing the body. So it's important to remember that distinction, and then any questions we might have for the attorneys, they can go through, if it's the utility attorney, you can make sure Michelle, she can pass that up, and then for the city attorney, through the city administrator. And then there's also the separation. It's a small community, but it's important that, again, as a commission member, you're not crossing over that line and suggesting things to the operational side as far as, hey, we're going to be repaving the parking lot. My brother-in-law does parking lots. Have you thought about calling them? You know, stuff like that. And that's obviously, again, one that would be a big red flag. But it's promoting contracts, promoting hiring of employees, selecting firms that we might operationally be choosing, applications for different items. It's not appropriate for commission members to say, how's that application going? I think it looks pretty good, you know. So those are things to kind of keep that separation, which all really boils down to the ethics. We talk about open meetings, and one of the things I wanted to make sure we touch on is the reply all. We send out the emails and all the members are listed, and then one or two people reply all, and pretty soon you're actually having a deliberation on some sort of topic, and there's a sufficient number of members involved in it that you could make a decision with that number of people. So now you've got a violation because the public has a right to see that, to be noticed that the deliberation is going to occur, and be able to watch it. So that deliberation has to be done openly, with notice, and ethically. Public stewardship, that's your primary role, is the stewardship of the public interest has to be your primary concern, and you can't have private or personal interests first. The personal and professional conduct must be above reproach. And the policy would like all of us to remember to avoid even the appearance of impropriety, and to make sure that in your contacts with staff, other members, and the public, no abusive contact, verbal attacks on the character or motives of people. And then again, the conflicts of interest, we touched on several of those. But you should not be taking any actions that substantially affect a matter that the member, their immediate family, or an organization which the member is associated with has a substantial financial interest. And you should not be using your position for personal gain. If you have questions about where something falls on that, make sure you ask. You can ask Michelle, you can ask the city administrator, and if it's really a question that is a difficult one, we can ask the city attorney for an advisory ethics opinion. So just to wrap it up, again, when in doubt, ask. Whether it's ethics, whether it's policy, whether it's how the code of conduct applies to a certain situation, ask. It's not really intended to be a trap where we catch people. It's intended to be self-policing and something that has the ability to ensure the city is governed effectively. The commission members do need to sign the code of conduct in order to hold office. I think we have most of them. There might be just one or two more that we're going to get tonight. And then your individual obligations and the duties of the president. Members have the obligation to comply with the code of conduct, first and foremost, individual responsibility. The chair also has responsibility to intervene when it appears a violation may have occurred, or they get notified that a violation may have occurred. So that's when the chair would get involved a little bit further in a code of conduct violation. So when things don't go right, or if they don't go right, the city council has a variety of things that they can do to help address it. Obviously, starting off with just kind of counseling or verbal warnings, reminders. But if it continues on unchecked, it can go further, and there can be sanctions for violations. But again, it's intended to be self-enforcing, where people are aware of this on an ongoing basis, and they're staying on the good side of the code of conduct and in all their actions. But again, when in doubt, ask. That's all I had for the code of conduct. Some of you have already seen it, read it, signed it a couple times already. But as you have questions for Michelle, myself, or Sarah, here's our contact information. And that's all I had to share on my portion.
Does anyone have any questions?
I have a general question. Typically, when can we anticipate a packet to be ready, just so that we can do our own digesting of material, so we can give enough time for you to respond to any questions we might have?
We just went through that and got that time frame. Full packets will be distributed electronically and hard copy on Tuesday. The Tuesday before the Thursday meeting.
Right, so 2 days ahead of time.
Yes.
Okay.
And the agenda as well, right?
Any other questions?
And the agenda as well. We're gonna do, sorry.
No,
I have a
you're fine.
question about adding items to the agenda as well. Are we going to vote on that as a commission to get a topic to an agenda, or is it just enough for one commissioner to ask the agenda to be added?
You can
added to the
send
agenda?
a formal request if you would like something added to the agenda.
And send it to you.
Send it to me. I'm sorry. I should have
Okay.
been more clear
And who
about that.
approves it? Is it just based on if you wanted to make it to the agenda, or?
Well, it's not just if I want to make it to the agenda, but sometimes it's going to be a matter of, do we have time in the next meeting, or is it something that will happen down the road?
Okay. So to clarify, is there a commission role for voting on an agenda item to get the item on the agenda?
So there's not really a process in the ordinance. I think the bylaws would be something that would help address that.
Okay.
So that the commission, when you adopt your bylaws,
Thank you.
you should set it how the commission wants it to be.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
We have a lot of processes that we're going to be covering in the next meeting, such as that, as we go through the bylaws. In fact, Michelle, or Kyle, one of you going to ask, could you please send the commissioners a copy of Ordinance 102 so that they're prepared for the next meeting?
Are you ready? You want me to? And I do, so for the 3 new commissioners, I do have packets for you that ordinance is in here, but we'll send it out electronically as well.
Thank you. All right, I just want to say thank you to Katie, Michelle, Kyle. That was a lot of work putting that together, and I think you guys did a really wonderful job. Thank you.
Well, thank you for all your help as well. You did a lot of work too.
As we move forward in the future, we will be having the financials in the consent agenda. However, being that we are a new commission, at least for the first 6 months, we'll see how we're doing at that point. I'm going to have Michelle go through them so that everybody has a thorough understanding of financial positions. So next on the list is the financial report for Water and Light.
So in your packet, you'll have multiple financials, the electric distribution summary income statement, let's see, the water summary, the balance sheet, and the wastewater, which I'm just receiving a lot of information from Brandon this week on numbers from budgets to year-to-date to just a whole lot of information. So the sewer actually is a more detailed one for the first time, which we'll probably put the summary one in here. But at any time, if there's ever any more detail you want, I am happy to get it for you. It's just if I put all the detail for all the utilities in here, it's going to be quite a big package. So, and then what I do from there is I take those financials and I take those numbers and I put them into graphs. And sometimes it's just easier to look at and look at the comparisons and give a little short brief on that instead of just looking at numbers. But I can go through either the financials or the graphs or both. I guess I'm looking for some input.
I'm good with just the graphs. Anyone else?
Okay. So if you come to the graphs, you'll see the first one, the first schedule, A. It's the kilowatt purchases versus sales. And as Mike was saying, costs have been up. We monitor this percentage at 95% closely because potentially could be a billing error. I do see for July it's at 91.4. So I did a little research and there was 3 more days of purchase power. We pull the reads in on midnight the 29th, and WPPI pulls the reads from our meter at midnight on the 1st. So just those couple days will make a difference, but it just throws up a flag to me to look into it. So if you look at the last bars, the year to date, that's a more actual percentage, and that's at 96.89. If we go to the second graph, this is the electric comparison by class. So the electric has 6 different customer classes. In this graph, it compares July from last year to July of this year. And you can see pretty much it's pretty consistent. What will drive every graph in here is weather. Especially unpredictable weather, extreme lengths of hot spells or wet spells or dry spells. But most of the time, the only time you'll see a big difference also is if a customer changes classes. So if you have a small power customer, like a small factory, and they add on and their power demands grow, they might move from a small power to a large power customer. So you'll see the large power customer bar grow and you'll see the small power customer decrease. When that does happen, when there is such a customer class change, I will note who it is and when it happens, so then you'll know. And it takes about a year to come back to being consent again. If you look at the next graph, see, it's the cost per kilowatt hour comparison. And again, as Mike explained, the cost of power has been very unpredictable this season. And for July, it was 0.10468, over 10 cents. It's the highest cost per kilowatt in over 10 years. I look back 10 years and in the report section of your packet, there is a memo. It's a whole cost power bill memo with explanations of why power costs are up. Examples are higher MISO transmission costs, higher marketing energy costs, like Mike said, higher fuel costs. So if you'd like more detail on that, in the reports, which is at the end of your packet, you will see that memo, and it just gives a more detailed explanation. Because we spend a lot of time on power costs because that's 80% of our electric budget expense. Very big part. Okay, if we go to the next graph, and soon I will incorporate sewer. We haven't done that transition from the funding yet, from, the city responsibility, the utility responsibility. So all these will be kind of updated as we move forward. But I like to put in the pie graph, I'd like to note the biggest part of the larger pie chart is the AR, which is our accounts receivable. That's balances owed on utility bills. It's at 1.2 million. I also so that is for August. I like to put July's in there the month before, so you can do a comparison, and AR was at 1.1. Summer is our peak. It's usually June, July, and August. It doesn't mean that collections are down. This just pretty much means bills are up. If you look, the cash is down about 83,000, but overall, it's still solid and stable financial position. If you look over at the smaller pie chart, that is our restricted funds. That is our repayment for our 2016 bond. We need to put money away for principal and interest payments, and we're also required by bond agencies to have a reserve fund of that specific amount. If we go to the next graph, and right before the meeting, I already found an update. I didn't have the data tags, so I know you see no numbers on there. But this is the sewer sales comparison. Again, this is a brand new chart. And this too runs off, weather, habit. I do see July, this year, residential is down. It's actually down 177,000 cubic feet, which is a little substantial. I also did notice that from the commercial to the industrial, there's an increase in industrial and decrease in commercial. That was a customer reclassification, and that was Gar Plastics moved from commercial to industrial. So we'll move from the sales to the financial part for the electric department. So for the month of July, we had an income of 116. We projected a monthly income of 114,000. So it was up to than what we projected, so that was pretty close. Our year to date is at 351,000. We projected 222,000, so that is up 129,000, which keeps us in a very strong financial position. We do have quite a few maintenance items that will be coming in, so I do expect to see that decline some in the next couple months. I also do an income comparison for the last 4 years. And again, it's just to see if there's consistencies. Once in a while, you'll see dips, and that's usually because of whether it's a specific maintenance item and I know it's not on here, but and I'm glad it's not on here. In 2015, there was huge dips because of the windstorms. So you definitely, that stands out. But July at 116, it's not the lowest in the last 4 years. It's not the highest, but it's comparable. If we move to the next graph, this is water actual versus budget. So for July, we had 13,000 for the month of July. We projected 35,000. So we were down 22,000 than projected. But our year to date, we're at 154,000 and we projected 143,000. So even though we're down 22 from July, our year to date is currently higher than projected by 11,000. So again, a good financial position. The next graph is the water income comparison. This is for the last 4 years. It is the lowest July in the last 4 years, but it is still stable. I couldn't find a specific item that caused this. I just think it's a timing thing. So I do anticipate that to go up. And our last, another brand new graph, our sewer actual versus budget income. And I still haven't got to deep dive into these numbers yet, but I did take this off the financial report that's in your packet. Their income for the month of July is at 53,000. Currently, they do not project any monthly income or year-to-date income. Their budget expenses equal their revenues. So year-to-date, they're at 434,000. I do see that number going down as, again, quite a few maintenance items come in the third quarter. So that is what I have for graphs and financials. Is there any questions? And also, if there's anything you would like added, changed, I'm always open for whatever.
I do have a request.
Sure.
On one of the graphs, I have
Sure.
to go back and find my notes, you had a little area that had your unrestricted funds, your cash balances.
Yep, the pie graphs.
Could we just see a prior period
that-
comparison in
I have
that
a-
little square?
So right, so we have August as the pie, we have July in the box. We don't have it, so we do have the prior month, it's just
Okay.
not in the shape of a graph. Would you like the graphs? Would you like two sets of graphs?
Personally, I would like to see two sets of numbers, but others may
Oh,
feel
so you want to
different.
see, because you have the numbers here around the graphic.
Yeah, I just want to see it laid out down
Like
here.
this, so you want two
comparison.
boxes? Perfect, yeah, I can do that.
Sorry.
No, I just want to make sure I understand exactly what you're looking for. So you'd like another box with current.
And it looks like to me you did a great job of combining the wastewater with the water and light. So we actually went through items 2 and 3, correct?
Yep,
Okay.
they were both together. I did do that because I anticipate doing that for the future.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, then next we are on to the vehicle replacement.
Okay, Dave is on vacation, but we have been discussing this for the last 2 years. Let me just get to so back in 2020, our vehicle replacement, we had ordered a new bucket truck. We received it in 2021. It's a 47.5-foot boom truck. It's one of our largest pieces of equipment. And because of that, we decided to do some upkeep and repairs to our current and not do a replacement in 2021 or 2022. So now that puts us in a position where we will need to replace 2 in 2023. They're both pickup trucks. And from the memo, you can see, and so I flip back and forth. You see that you have the graph with the vehicles, the numbers, the descriptions, their depreciation rates, and their replacement, and I should just pull that out. So it's being proposed to replace unit number 27. That's a 2012 Ford F-250. It is a 2-wheel drive. Replacing it with a 4-wheel drive, a regular cab, Ford or Chevy, and adding a dump box. So I haven't And next, we'll be talking about capital expenditure items. These two vehicles are also on there. I did reach out, I haven't gotten any solid numbers. What I can give you as a ballpark number is between 60 to 80,000. So the second replacement is to replace unit number 21, which is a 2012 F-250 four-wheel drive, with a new four-wheel drive extended cab Ford truck. This is actually to replace one of the water department trucks. And again, I couldn't get any solid numbers, but I did get 40 to 50,000. These trucks are fully depreciated. They're actually they'll be over 2 years, fully depreciated and needing to be replaced. The one other item, which is funds that could be used towards these vehicles, is selling the number 20, which is the Ford Fusion car. We're not anticipating we're not requesting to replace it. We're asking to sell it. It had quite a few repairs that have been done in the last couple of years that even we wouldn't feel right. Normally vehicles are offered to purchase from other departments. We just see this is best to sell and let go. And then those funds would be used towards the vehicles being purchased. Is there any question?
Yeah, what do you think it's worth?
Well, we looked on the, is it Wisconsin auction? And they gave us a range, and it was, you know, good to bad to excellent, and it can go anywhere from 4,000 to 10,000. It all depends on the buyer. Because we went through this with our Prius a few years ago. We thought maybe 4,000, and we got 6,600. So it really depends on who finds it as a valuable purchase. But not a little dent.
It's something.
Right. So if this is acceptable to move forward, to put into the capital expenditures budget, we would spend more time on getting more details, designs, getting it more of a concrete number to put into the 2023 budget.
Okay. Are there any commissioners who are not comfortable with putting this into the budget? Okay.
I'm just, is this pretty typical, would you say?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Nothing like out of the ordinary or?
No, because if you, I mean, and we actually get a little bit of a discount because of the government, you know, state discount. But I don't know if you have gone out and priced out trucks lately.
I haven't.
They're
very-
scary. Kyle, do we need to take an official vote on this?
Well, this is gonna go into the expenditure budget, or the capital expenditure budget, which we're gonna talk about in this meeting. It's gonna come back to you next meeting, and then it's going to be part of the budget as we decipher what this is, and that will be the approval in the budget, like November.
Okay, but we don't need anything official.
Unless you,
We're not spending money right now,
Okay.
so.
and you have that many times to change it. And unless, and I know that's something at a future meeting where the
And when
budget process.
will you come back with the budget next month?
I will come back with this with updated numbers. Numbers are still coming in for overhead, or for maintenance items. I'm getting a few in. I know you guys are too, because I got a couple from Stephanie. But usually the budget, we wait until August. Financials are closed and reconciled. I use those actual 8 months. Then I usually by then have all the estimated maintenance items that I can give you a good draft budget in October. Then if the commission we could hold a special budget meeting, or, you know, if there's a lot of, you know, conversation about that, or it would be talked about in October, adjustments could be made, and then it would come back in November.
I think that's a little different than we had talked about previously, the three of us, in setting up timelines for meetings. Do we wish to say that we're going to have a special budget meeting then in October so that it can be presented in time to be consolidated in with the city's budget to be presented to the council?
So the city council will get the administrator's budget October 4th or something like that. But then, yeah, in November, you need to have all your numbers locked in, published. So really, because you have to have 15 days before you vote, you need to have some of that in October.
Right.
We don't publish. We would publish with yours.
Yeah, we
Well-
need to publish.
But anything that would have an impact on the city's budget, we need to have locked in as far as, you know, the funding, and we're doing wastewater still, and the stormwater currently.
So clarify, I'm confused. Can we need to have this done on September 22nd, or we need to have a special meeting early October?
I think the commission could have a meeting in October and still be okay.
Okay. Regular or special?
I guess if it's ready to be approved or recommended in October, then the city can run with anything that would be kind of related to that.
So maybe do a special before the regular to work out anything.
Yeah, if you can have as much as you can for us to see in September, and then we'll start there, and then if...
Yes, yep, I could do that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Then next, we would go through, do we need, well, next was the 2023 budget discussion. Maybe we just blew through that.
Sarah, I did have a question quick, if you don't mind. It's related to the budget and to the vehicle replacement, but I just wanted to ask about the policy, and the note that we have refers to the Columbus Water and Light surplus equipment policy, and whether or not that policy kind of aligns with the city's equipment replacement policy, because that had been updated in recent years. When you're talking about, you know, selling a certain vehicle to fund another vehicle through the budget process, I just wondered if that's an appropriate question to ask, whether that policy conflicts at all with the city's policy, and whether we need to have that discussion as a commission or not through this.
So I think that's a good observation, because the Columbus Water and Light policy really isn't in effect anymore.
Right.
So it's similar to the city policy, but obviously the city's not talking about depreciation or anything like that, but the core concept of selling the vehicles and segregating all of the revenue, either to defer current purchases of vehicles or to go into a fund for future reserves and to buy vehicles in the future. That's there. So I think there might be the ability to kind of have a policy that works across the board. And I would, you know, also again, within departments, you know, there's the fusion, sounds like we don't want to, that might not be a great
The city's
candidate
probably
for
not gonna buy that.
passing around, but I think we would continue that option of offering things to other people, other departments in the city. Coming from a utility, it goes both directions. If it comes from the general fund to a utility, the utility has to buy it from the general fund, and the vice versa is true as well. So because it's an enterprise fund, there would be an exchange of value if we would keep it in the city, but to a different department.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I did put this in the package just for reference. There's a lot of policies that are going to have to be looked at and updated. So you're absolutely correct that it's not ineffective. It's just kind of more of a reference.
I just think when the city updated their policy, the intent was not to have the, you know, surplus items siloed into, you know, new expenses. It was just kind of, it's all going in, but as Kyle says, this is still coming from a utility, which is an enterprise fund, so there couldn't necessarily be all mixed together, I guess. I just didn't want there to be any surprises if you're banking on that income from the surplus sales to pay for, you know, new trucks, and say, hey, you know, we thought that money was ours and it's gone now. So I just thought it would be appropriate to bring it up now.
Sure. Thank you. All right. Well, like we just talked about, so I like to give a draft of the plant additions, which are the capital expenditures. As you can see, I'm waiting for a lot of dollars. As I'm sure Kyle's finding out with his budget too, nobody wants to guarantee a price more than 30 days. Some don't even get back to you. It's really hard. Or they say, well, we can give it to you for this, but you won't get it until 2024, or, you know, that type of thing. I did get some, like I said, I like to call them ballparks because I don't call them true estimates. But we did get some word from the administrative building. We have about 6 to 10 leaks that are all over the top of the building. We're looking at more just repairing the leaks. We did have, Ralph, what was that company?
Commercial roofing?
Yes, we had them come in, I want to believe last year, and they sealed up a couple leaks and they did a fantastic job. So we're trying to get them out to take a look at this. Depending on what they find, this could be between a $15,000 and $40,000 repair, just because the leaks they're not all in one place. And if you've seen our building, it's, you know, quite large. There's some over the shop and some over the offices. We're hoping they'll come out, I want to say tentatively they're scheduled to come out next week. So then we just talked about that vehicle, with the four-wheel drive regular, the cab, the dump truck, and again, 60 to 80,000. Street project, I'm still waiting. I asked Jason to update the water main replacement portion, I think back in November 21. It's like about 110,000. I'm thinking right now it's gonna be about 200,000 for Folsom. They would change that old 6-inch main out to an 8-inch main. The air scour valves, I don't have a lot of details on this. I know it's water plant equipment. They need to be replaced. That could be a $10,000 to $20,000 item. And the last of the question marks, the four-wheel drive, the extended cab truck, which would be a water item, 40 to 50,000. We feel we have the other numbers at really good budgetary numbers. I always like to get them as close as possible. So I keep reaching out. Those were the numbers, budgetary numbers that we got. But this looks like to be our capital plant additions for next year. We don't have any big requirement maintenance items due, for water, like, this year we had the vessel inspection, DNR requirements. So the biggest one for water would be the water main replacement. And the lead services, we're always working on those. The lead services, on the utility side, and we're required to do X amount a year. So, but every year those numbers keep coming down, so hopefully that will come off the list.
And do you need to borrow, or do we have the cash?
That's right. Yes, all this would be paid for by revenue dollars. I don't anticipate any borrowing. And in your graph, if you look back, there is a piece of the pie that's called the Utility General Fund. What we have done is we paid off a 2015 GO bond early, and the commission decided to take those funds that normally paid for that to put into a separate account for future projects. Happy to say that both last year's Farnham Street project and this year's Farnham Street project, we did not have to borrow funds for. And I don't anticipate, unless something very unexpected, but at this time, I don't expect any borrowing to happen in 2023.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any questions for Michelle? Michelle, I was just noting in my head, we did not go through the AP report. Do you want to do
part
that
of this,
quickly?
right? Is this?
I know, it's getting used to something new.
Well, I thought that was on the agenda. Isn't this all together? No, we mproved on. We moved.
Yeah.
We gotta go through it. Okay, we will do that next, right? So as I stated in the email, the accounts, yeah, we're still okay, we're still in that same, oh, no, we're not. We'll just back up a little bit. So in the email, I stated that we are moving over to a new financial software package system, Civic Connect. So we have been doing training and running parallel systems, and everything has been tying out. I have to say it's been pretty great working with them. But one of the things is that the payables were done this week and for the meeting, and they don't have like just 10 boilerplate reports you get to pick from. You actually have the capability of building your own. But the trainer was out, we were trying to use what they had. So the first one had the information we needed, but the second one that I handed out to you tonight and emailed you, I think is better. I think it has all the information we need. I still think it can be cleaner, and we'll keep working on that. So anticipate this to change a little bit. In the past, I have highlighted ones that weren't typically normal monthly payables and went through those explanations, because month after month, you'll kind of see the same maintenance items that we pay for, so we don't go over them. I guess I'm asking how the commission would like to, I guess, Sarah, what would you recommend?
I would like you to go through and point out anything that is not normal. Is there any new commissioner who would like her to go through the whole payables this time?
Because at this time, you did see that you had a cash disbursement report in your packet. So we do this at the same time. If you have any questions or comments noted on that, I'd like to address them. And if not, we'll move forward with the payables. Yeah, this is even new for me. So border states is 5 4-point junctions. Why typically it's not a high dollar amount, it's $709, but as inventory items are purchased, I like to point them out. If you look at the next one, check number 22772 to the city of Columbus, you'll see we had our annual insurance premium. So that was an additional $46,000, and that takes care of our property insurance, workman's comp insurance, and vehicle insurance. The next one down, Crescent Electric Supply, 22773. Again, these were inventory items. Parallel groove clamps. I don't have the rest of that description. Nope, not there either. Oh, maybe it's on the other one. That's okay. They're inventory items. And the next one, 22774, CTW Corporation. We had to have CTW Corporation come out and do services to well pump number 1. That was for $581.22. Let's see. Well, in the start of the bottom of page 1, 22784 is Rupert and Milky. There's a couple items that have been paid for. The corrosion control treatment support. So we are in the middle of changing out our chemical pumping equipment, tanks, scales, and Rupert and Milky have been helping us go through the process, as we had to do a study, submit it to the DNR, get approval, get a recommendation, and now implement the changes. So we're in the process of doing that. That has to be implemented by September of this year. We also had GIS data maintenance. Rupert and Milky support our water GIS system. They also support our SCADA, our water SCADA system. And we also have engineering expenses for the State Highway 89, which we've been calling the Farnham project. So there was quite a bit there. If you move down to 22786, Strand and Associates, they completed the vessel observation and reports. We called it the vessel inspection. They did have some recommendations for both plants. They looked at water plant 1 and water plant 2. I will be asking that to be on next month's agenda to get that report out to all of you. And if we move down, if you look at the last one, 22792, Wise Guys Auto Repair. We had 2 strobe lights on 2 different trucks that needed to be replaced and repaired for $585.70. Were there any questions?
Seeing no questions, do we have a motion to approve the payables?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. In your packets is a job description for the superintendent position. Michelle does a lovely job. She's not going anywhere, but for the new commissioners, she has never been ratified as the superintendent. She is still operating as an interim superintendent. As per the city policies, we have to post her position publicly for people to apply. We have updated the job description with a recommendation as it encompasses the new reorganization of the departments. And so tonight, I want to hear if we have any questions or discussion on the job description that is proposed. And if not, looking to get approval to move it forward to be posted.
Hey, one question I have, with the change in the ordinance, it looks like the superintendent will now report to the city administrator. So where does the commission fit in on that, or?
Yeah, so you mean as far as the hiring goes or as far
Well, it
as
looks like-
supervision?
It looks like the commission hires a person and they
We have
report to
input.
the city administrator.
We do. We have input, and so does the city administrator. In fact, what I would like to do is move the job description to WPPI. They have offered to post it and help do a search. We have encouraged Michelle and Katie to both apply if they wish to. And then we would all be involved from there. Again, we have to kind of lay out that process when we do the bylaws as well.
I have a quick question. On page 4 of the job description, under desired job knowledge, skills, and abilities, we list some different combinations of skills, qualifications, and things. Does that need to match the bullet points listed on certificates, licenses, and special requirements 2 pages later, which I don't have a page number for? It's not,
No, that's 2 different job descriptions.
okay.
The one from, so the one you were looking at, desired job knowledge, skills, and abilities,
Yep.
that job description ends on the next page, page 5.
And what's the next
That
superintendent
was
one
the
for?
the previous water and light superintendent job description.
Okay, so this is an old document.
Old, right?
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or thoughts?
I had a couple of things I noticed on here. Again, under financial management, page 3, there's reference to the city's purchasing policies and procedures, which I think is good because it's more clear than what we had on the memo there about
It's also
Columbus
in
Water
the
and Light.
ordinance.
Yep. And then also under personnel management supervisory, line 1, directly supervises employees, including conducting employee evaluations. I think that we should have a reference to annual or regular evaluations.
Okay.
And then I think there are some references in here as well about the stormwater utility. I guess my main question would be the stormwater utility may have been created by ordinance, but it isn't officially a utility because it's not funded other than through the general fund. So do you feel like having that responsibility assigned in the general duties is going to make it impossible for us to find a good candidate that's got experience with, 4 utilities versus 2? I just wanted to bring that up because I think it would be great to have someone that has stormwater knowledge or experience, but if they don't, how much weight are we going to put on, those skills as a candidate?
Right.
If we don't officially have a stormwater utility created or funded, I guess, so.
Well, I'm hoping to have it funded at some point in
I
the near
agree.
future.
Yep.
But I think being proactive and having it in there, it is a good thing. And then we just have to weigh out the candidate skills when they come in.
Sure.
And pick the best based on those skills.
I do have to excuse myself, and I've got to wrangle a kid, and I will actually try to come back. I thought we'd be done by now, but
So did we apologize.
that's all right. And if I can make it back, I'll continue with the meeting. Otherwise, I'll just follow up with notes between now and the next meeting if I have anything to put. Thank you.
Thank you. Brooke, your light was on. Do you have a question? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so with the suggested change on annual or regular evaluations, is this commission comfortable with posting this job description?
7, is that what you got?
Yeah, with the change for annual or regular, I think it's a good addition. Yeah, I'm comfortable with it as presented otherwise.
Okay. All right. Rolf? Okay, Brooke? Okay. Wonderful. We will get that posted and Michelle will apply. And Katie? No.
What are you looking for?
Michelle, did you want to go over the WPPI annual meeting notice?
Sure, as you see in your packet, the memo says save the date for WPPI's annual meeting, which is September 15th. I also put the invitation in there, and you can see they're still putting together some final touches, but they got some great speakers lined up. Joe Ditto, President and CEO of American Public Power Association, Jim Stawicki he is the chair for the WPPI Board of Directors, and Mike Peters, President and CEO. These are, the program is a one-day program, but it is phenomenal. If you look on the second page, it shows they have pre-meeting events, the agenda. They also do have a scholarship opportunity for a member, for an elected or appointed official to attend. If anyone is interested, I can sign them up. It also, there's registration information, contact information, but if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or to Kayla. But I would recommend, if you're able to attend. It's a great program.
Wonderful.
So it's $50? No, I'm looking at the golf. Sorry.
Golf.
What's the charge, or is there a registration fee?
There is not a charge, I don't believe, for the
Okay.
program.
So it's a free program?
I signed up already and didn't get charged.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for the scholarship opportunity. I'm sorry, I should clarify. It's for the hotel accommodation, if you would stay.
Yeah, but it's in Madison, right?
In Middleton, yep.
Okay. Great.
So.
Then we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Well, additions to what is in my superintendent's report since our last meeting in July, we have had 3 power outages, 1 water main break, and today we had a water lateral break.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So wrapping up the end of summer. So busy with maintenance items, and then we have our part-time custodian is out on medical leave. So staff is just pitching in, which is great. We also have a few staff members taking those last summer vacations before school starts, so once in a while, we're a little slim on, but we're still getting it done. So that's all I have.
Thank you. All right, at our next meeting, we will be walking through more budget items. We will be getting into more detail on the bylaws and creating the bylaws for the commission. It is not on your agenda, but it was mentioned earlier, so I feel fairly safe in saying that we will be having a sewer rate discussion at the next meeting as well. With that said, I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
Can I just remind people, we're going to meet the fourth Thursday night of the month for our meeting because of,
WPPI's
So-
meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that, yes.
so
So
don't
it'll
let
be
that
the
throw you.
fourth Thursday instead of the third Thursday.
September 22nd.
Yes,
So
thank you.
I move to
Thank you.
adjourn.
Do we
I
have a,
second.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned.
So if I send you that email with that form.